Okay, I am making this video to actually show you the beginning of the process, not counting, of course, the actual cutting of the foam. And I have some videos and some information about how I cut these on my blog. These were cut from, this one probably was cut quite a long time ago, from the dollar store foam sheets, which are 4 by 6. As you can see, this would cut pretty nicely from this sheet. And I have used the other side of this, the negative I say, to create raised images in my clay. But I haven't used this piece. This piece has been hanging around, and now I plan to use it as a stamp. It's a really nice stamp and would look really pretty on a card or something. So the process, as I have described in my previous videos, which I'm going to show you perhaps from start to finish, we'll see how that goes. First thing I told you I did was apply packing tape. So that's what I'm going to do here. Apply packing tape, and hopefully I'll get the whole image on this one sheet of tape. And static electricity sometimes creates a few issues because it wants to hop on here, and I do have it pretty much covered, as much as it really needs to be. Now the second thing I do, and I didn't cover it completely in one of the videos, but it's real important, and you take baby powder or cornstarch, and on the sticky part, the foam is already stuck to the tape, but I don't want this tape sticking to the paper as I try to position it for stamping. And so by putting baby powder or cornstarch on the sticky bits around the foam, I eliminate the stickiness entirely. It won't stick to my fingers as it's trying to do now, and it won't stick to the paper when I try to position it, and that's the objective. You aren't hurting anything if you get baby powder onto the foam. It's easily wiped off. And one thing about this foam, and I have found in my clay work particularly, practically nothing sticks to it. So there you go. So what I do is, and I'll do this off camera, I'll give it a little shake so it doesn't have any more baby powder than it actually needs to have. So I'll kind of spank it off camera here, and now I have the shiny side of the tape, and this side of the tape is precluded now from sticking to anything. So that's the important lesson here. Now the second thing is the Aleenes Tack it over and over. I take it from this bottle and put it in one of these fine line squeeze bottles. And what's really good about that is it goes a long way, plus you don't dispense any more than you need to. So in this case, I will follow the outline of the foam. Now I'm doing this on the shiny side of the packing tape. And it does, the only reason I want to get it on all parts of the foam is that it will create an adhesion on the cover of the MISTI, and therefore enable the design to be nice and flat so that it will stamp really well. Now you see this is coming out in white, and you must wait until this is perfectly dry before trying to use it. The other advantage of having it in this squeeze bottle is you can apply a fairly thin and small coat, and it dries a lot quicker. So that's what I'm doing now, and then we must wait until it is dry. And I won't do that on camera. I'm going to pause and then resume once this is perfectly dry. You'll know it's dry because it will not be white any longer. It will be perfectly clear, and when you touch it, it will be extremely tacky. It might even stick to your fingers, so you better keep your fingers. That's one of the reasons the packing tape is useful. You probably could do this without the packing tape, but this adhesive, once it's this tacky adhesive, will stick to your fingers as you're trying to use it and place it down. So this is what I'm going to do now, is pause this video, and it's helpful. This little needle tool is kind of hard to get it in there, but it works best if you can guide it with your finger. Well, one of these minutes I will get it. There it is. Okay, so there we go. And okay, this is now perfectly dry. You can see that it is clear, no white remaining. So what I'm going to do now is turn my MISTI around, and I'm going to open up the lid. I'm going to place this on this watercolor paper pretty much the way I want it, and again, the purpose of the tape means I can touch it without it sticking to my fingers. If you touch this, it's very, very tacky. So then I close the lid to the MISTI, press it a little bit, it then opens, and I am going to use a Memento Luxe ink and blue. And this is nice and flat. Let's see, the flatter I can get this, the better. Let's see, I think it's pretty flat. Yeah, flat. And then I'm going to ink it up. And I may have to, and I'm using watercolor paper, by the way, so haven't usually used that. I usually use cardstock. So now I'm going to just press it down for a few seconds and see what I get. Not very good. And sometimes it's a case of the magnets being in the wrong place. Or in this case, it really could be the watercolor paper. So I'm going to try it again. And the beauty of the MISTI is that you can continue to stamp it several times. It's getting better. And I think had I used regular cardstock, I'd have really gotten a very good print. I don't know why I chose to use the watercolor paper. Probably shouldn't have. And I'm not really supposed to do this, but what I'm going to do now is raise it up a little bit. I had taken this pad of paper out thinking that it wouldn't be good, but by putting it back in the corner, putting those magnets in place, it should line up. So we'll see. I'll ink it again and give it a go. It's getting better. In fact, I think one more application over here. I think it's a little light on this side. We'll do it. The MISTI is really a wonderful tool because you really get to have several chances at getting a pretty darn good image. There you go. I think that's pretty much it. I could even fix, this is watercolor paper, And I could even fix this part here, which I'm going to try and do. And I think I can do that right here. And there it is. Yeah, it did work really well on watercolor paper. So now I can remove this by grabbing the tape. And remember now, it's adhered to the back. I may have to scrape off some of the residue. The more I use this, the easier it will be. And then I can place this onto the polypropylene page protector, and I'll show you how I can wash that in a minute. Let me get this another wet wipe. And I think that'll take the excess off. Certainly will take the ink off. And I may have to work at getting the excess adhesive off. It might not have been fully dry, and I wanted to try it. So it's coming off pretty easily. So I've got it. Now I can clean off the stamp while it's sticking to the, remember it was green to start with, and now I'm taking all the excess ink off it. I find that I really do need to do this. The ink sits on that foam and doesn't really want to dry like paint would. So to get it useful for the next print of a different color perhaps, it's good that I can, and this ink stays wet along. Go. I've got it cleaned, ready to go. It's in storage. All I have to do is rip it off the polypropylene and use it again. So I'm going to do that. Now I did another one here wanting to stick, which is this little cut. Now this was not cut on the Cameo. This was cut on a die cut machine. So what I'm going to do is use regular cardstock this time and see how that will turn out. I think it should turn out pretty okay. So I want to, whoops, it's a little bit too big for this. What I can do is turn this over, which is what I'll do. Oops, not a very good piece of paper, but let's try it anyway. This is a piece of scrapbook paper, and I don't really particularly like that, but it probably will be much prettier. So there I go. I'm going to lay that here. I'm going to pick it up with the cover. I'm going to use the same stamp pad, if I can find it. Here it is. And see what I get here. Again, this will be in blue. It's the only one I have at the moment handy. Just want to show you how this works. There it is. The key to the MISTI is getting it at the proper level. As you can see, I had a pad of this paper, this graph paper, and I took it out thinking, and it has a foam piece underneath it also. I think that's the learning curve on the MISTI, is to figure that out. So there, I missed inking that up, so I'm going to have another go at that. I missed that down here, so I'm going to see if I can get a slightly better print, and I can. It's the thickness of the magnets and the bed that you're trying to impress on. It's a little getting used to, and the thickness of your stamp. So there we go. That is a perfect, pretty perfect. See, I might have missed a section right down here. I might even try to fix that, because I can. And this MISTI does make it easy to fix. So all I have to do is sit on that a little bit, a couple of seconds, and voila. There we go. So that is a pretty darn good print from the foam. The one on the watercolor paper, because I could press it several times, turned out very bright and vivid, as did this. Now the watercolor paper was a little bit thicker than this cardstock. But that's the only thing you have to get used to with the MISTI is it has, and try not to get these two magnets stuck together. You'll spend a lot of time separating them. But I have this little pad of graph paper that came with it, or that I bought with it. I have this foam pad, and that's removable in case your stamp is extra thick. If it's extra thick and you have that depth, once you add your magnets, if you have a nice thick stamp, say if it's about that thick, you'd want to perhaps remove this to get a good stamp. So that's the only learning curve I'm aware of, is learning how thick your stamp is and how many, how hard you have to press. And of course then there's the magnets, if they raise above, if they're raised above the MISTI, which it appears to be now, but because the foam is underneath there, it can be pressed down, and that's how I got this image. Anyway, so here we are. This is the other one, and it has on the back of it the tack it over and over, and you can see it's pretty tacky. And what I'm going to do is, again, apply it to this and clean that, and clean both the extra stickiness. In this case, it pulled a piece of the little tape off. But anyway, it works. It works, and I can easily remove this tacky stuff. It seems to want to remove easily just with a handy wipe, or whatever these things are called. Alright, so there you have it. From the taping to the applying of the powder on the sticky side so it won't stick to the paper, letting it dry, and then positioning it and stamping it. Well, I hope that answers any questions that you might have.